Hello and welcome to the Planet Playground podcast with me, Sports Travel Tom. This is the podcast that explores our planet through sport and adventure travel, showcasing the very best sports events and adventures our world has to offer because our planet is our playground. On the podcast, I'm speaking to those who have travelled the world competing in, watching and experiencing the very best sports events and adventures. And on this week's episode, I am delighted to be joined by a Michelin Star chef who, after studying catering and hospitality at Southampton City College, went on to work under the likes of Gary Rhodes, Gordon Ramsay and Marcus Waring in London before setting up in Padstow in Cornwall. It's there you can find multiple options for food and drinks under this man's stewardship, along with the Padstow Townhouse for a place to stay as well. This is a chef who has also experienced some of the world's greatest sports events through being invited to cook for thousands of guests at the likes of the British Grand Prix. Welcome the brilliant Paul Ainsworth to the Planet Playground podcast. Hello, Paul.
How are you, Tom?
I'm very well, thank you. More importantly, how are you? Because it's been a busy weekend at Silverstone for you at the British Grand Prix.
Yeah, it has. It was absolutely fantastic. I mean, first of all, from a racing spectacle, it was amazing because of the weather and, it went dry, then it went wet again, then it went dry again, which obviously makes it brilliant. And when you see, to me, when it's a dry day, it's unbelievable seeing, real sort of courage at those speeds. But when it's wet like that, and I think the thing for me is, especially since the introduction of that, the halo and just the spray coming up, the speed that they're going, and you got to think that their eyesight is it's not superhuman, bionic eyesight or whatever. It's still eyesight, isn't it? It's still human eyesight. And it's absolutely incredible. But no, we were cooking on the Octane Terrace with Edge Events.
Amazing.
And it was brilliant. Really, really good fun. And everybody happy, everybody happy, cooked for thousands of people. And it was a great weekend.
Absolutely. And it always is a good weekend at the British Grand Prix when it ends with a British winner, which we had in Lando Norris. You're right about the spray. When you watch it on TV, you just wonder how on earth are they managing to see 2 feet in front of them, because the spray coming off those cars is extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah.
What kind of menu do you put together then for the British Grand Prix? What were your guests enjoying yesterday?
Yeah, so this was really, really fun and right up my street because it's so they call it the Octane Terrace. So it is essentially almost like this long sort of boulevard that it's in a great spot of the track. It's right on as they come in, heavy braking on one of the sort of sharp corners. And you basically, the customers, they pay a price, and then there's just a selection of like street food sort of like stalls that are all nicely dressed. So there was myself, Lisa Goodwin-Allen, Tommy Banks, Andrew Wong. So like a whole host of chefs, Angela Hartnett, and you can just go and choose different dishes.
Brilliant.
From like the stalls. And then they've got the terrace, which is then like a gantry terrace. Lots of spaces to watch it, keep dry, which was really nice. And we did breakfast, lunch, and then on into the like late afternoon, even after the racing. So it's really, really good. So we did sort of a couple of dishes from our book that we launched last year, For the Love of Food. And it was more, like there's a great fish hot dog that we do at our pub called the Mariners. We call it the Dog's Pollock. Pollock, okay, with a P. And it's this, so it's just, again, the sort of stuff I feel that you want when you're in that environment, stuff that's moorish, comforting, it's salty, just that sort of great day out festival food. We were doing another dish called the Rock Muffin, which is essentially our take on sort of like, the Golden Arches muffin, but with wholesome ingredients.
Something that's below 1,000 calories.
And then our free cheese arancini. So again, these are lovely, beautiful. Essentially, if you don't know what arancini is, anyone listening, it is
Love
a
arancini.
lovely soft risotto packed with cheese, but we pack it with 3 cheeses. So we're
Oh,
using a red fox, a beautiful mozzarella, and then lots of parmesan. So it gets lots of umami, spring onions, soft onions, and then top it with more parmesan chives. And then you just basically deep fry them into crisp balls. And they are, again, super Moorish. And then that was with a black truffle mayonnaise.
I normally eat before recording these podcast episodes, but I'm going to have to eat again after this recording because I'm hungry already.
You've got the book, so the arancini, and the dog's pollock are in the book, and the muffin.
I will. I know we'll talk about the book in a moment because it's wonderful to have a look through. And I have to say, because the British Grand Prix you were at, obviously, as you've said, we met a couple of weeks ago at another sporting event, the Giorgio Armani Tennis Classic. I know you love your sport and you love, to be in the thick of those sporting events and doing what you love, which is cooking, of course. But yeah, just go into how much you do like your sport and, how much you follow football, for instance, and love going to sporting events.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Tom. And I do love sport. And I think sometimes what people find interesting is my love of sport is obviously the actual sport itself and whatever it is when you're watching, as we were lucky enough to watch, when you see someone like Djokovic and the condition that these people in. And, when he arrived at the Hurlingham Club, just an hour dedicated to stretching. Again, I think that's I think his thing, isn't it? You get a lot of elite athletes that probably don't put the emphasis on the stretching like he does, or like you say, when you're at the racing yesterday, and no matter whether Lando that won it or whatever car you are, just the sheer sort of skill, courage, guts, determination to be an F1 driver, footballer, the list goes on. But I also love the mentality and the mindset, and it's something that, whilst I'm not an elite athlete, you can take a lot of that culture and a lot of that mindset and put it into what I do from a business perspective. And you took great pleasure in taking the mickey out of me being a Manchester United supporter, and I embraced it.
Only because you were born in Southampton.
Yeah, but I told my link with my dad.
Yeah, that's true.
I think there's always lots of lessons to take, especially from sort of like the running of a football club, because at the end of the day, a football club, for the spectator, you want to see great, amazing football, but a football club has to run like a business, and there's so much you can take from that and put into your own business, like from succession planning or making sure it's financially viable and that the business runs properly. But also there's a culture, like when you listen to Sir Alex Ferguson and the importance of knowing absolutely everybody's name, to, from the kit man to, the people behind the scenes that make everything happen. And that stuff really, really interests me, and I try to put as much of that is relevant into the Ainsworth collection, because once upon a time when we started, Tom, back in 2005, there was 4 of us. We currently employ 252 people now across the group. That will go north of 300 next year with our new acquisition, St Anna Dock Hotel. So I like to sort of look at these things, and I think it's great to look at sport as a brilliant sort of place of excellence, and how you can then put that excellence into what you do. So, yeah. And then there's triathlon, Ironman, which, if you love triathlon and you love the sport, then you are obviously going to be a great fan of Ironman. But, when you see where triathlon is right now, and, last weekend you've got Christian Blumenfeld in Frankfurt, sort of running I think a 2:30 marathon off of the back of a 112-mile bike ride and a 2.4 mile swim. These are superhuman beings, and and like they should be celebrated. They should be winning Sports Personality of the Year, because that for me truly is superhuman, to be doing that, to be sort of, you imagine trying to run, like if you look at sort of like just a marathon runner, like a 2:30 is incredible, let alone coming off of, And I mean, they're doing a 112-mile bike ride in sort of 4 hours, sometimes sub four, which is, yeah. So again, I'm just fascinated by it all and obsessed by it. I think it's just incredible.
Yeah, and I want to touch on, we'll come back to your Ironman exploits as well, because I know for you, part of your job is eating, isn't it? You need to taste the food as you go. So you need to maintain a healthy work-life balance. You need to maintain a healthy form of fitness as well. And I know you've fallen in love with Ironman. So we'll come on to that in a bit. And the places you travel with Ironman as well, which is what we all love, sports travel. I mean, you've cooked, we were together, obviously, at the Giorgio Armani Tennis Classic a couple of weeks ago. You've done the British Grand Prix as well.
Yeah.
You love to be at sports events. Which other sports events have you had the pleasure of cooking at?
Not too long ago, we did Lords, which was
brilliant,
amazing, absolutely
historic.
Brilliant. To be in the long room, exactly, the historic, the legacy. That was a really fantastic night as well, and did a whole Q&A with a fantastic chap, Angus, who's an absolute legend in cricket. So yeah, it was really, really good, and cooked for a lot of people, which is always, a great challenge, but one we love.
No longer is it the day of pie and a pint at a sporting event when you're there.
No, it's not, and I think also that's an amazing thing, and something that I think is really transformative, and something that is, how it should be. I was really lucky last year. We were working, not at a sporting event, but the people I was working for in New York took me to my first ever Yankees game.
Brilliant.
And I know America get a lot of stick, certainly, almost as if they just literally all they know is kind of like junk food and fast food. But I've got to say, Tom, went to the Yankee Stadium and they put us to shame, sort of in terms of the food offering and the quality of food compared to sort of, when you go into, like you say, like having a pie and a hot dog or something like that. And I think that that's now really catching on here, that I think we're really in a good place with food in the UK, and we are now in a lot of ways leading the way. But I think that's now seeping into, as you say, sort of sporting events, football grounds, just knowing that actually, and it doesn't always have to be sitting down having free courses. It can be like what we were doing this weekend at Silverstone, where great quality ingredients, but in that street food style, things that are going to nourish you and are delicious and are high quality, great ingredients, but it doesn't always have to be, sort of what is perceived as fine dining or, luxury, but it is luxury because it's delicious. That it's in the shape of a hot dog or a nice, a burger done well, or like I was saying, the arancini, or, like lovely, like went up to Angela Hartnett's store and said, "Oh, Angela, can I," she was doing these lovely crumbed lamb cutlets with this beautiful caponata. And, you just got a little tray, a couple of cutlets, this lovely sort of caponata, which is a bit like an Italian sort of ratatouille. I mean, it was lovely. And you just eating that, watching the Grand Prix. That for me is a huge, huge step forward.
Just a little tip, actually. I went to a Mallorca football match a couple of months ago in Mallorca to see Mallorca play. And I ordered a burger just on the main concourse, the normal standard food counters and drinks counters. I ordered a burger. Oh, my word. It was one of the most delicious burgers I've ever had.
Yeah.
If you want, whoever's in Mallorca, go to a Mallorca football match and order the burger. It was incredible. Brilliant.
Well, I'm going to have that as a tip, because one of my other goals, and again, talking of destinations, Mallorca has got to be up there as probably one of the holy grails for cycling.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. And that is absolutely on my list of things to do, to head to Mallorca and just go on a really amazing cycling holiday, and I'll get a football match in as well.
Yeah, you have to. I will send you the link to a video I did, and it's incredible. But the cycling in Mallorca, there's a little village called Alaro, right in the middle of Mallorca in the mountains, and it's not really it's not marketed as a touristy place or anything like that, but the cyclists know it. and there's a couple of places. There's a Cycling Planet Cafe or Planet Cycling, one of the two,
Yeah.
and there's another place where you can hire bikes, and you just set off into the mountains, and it is incredible. And you know what's so great about it is the tarmac on the roads is so smooth and in such good condition. It's just an absolute joy. It'll be a good place to go training for your Ironmans.
Yes,
actually. It'll be good. Yeah, it'll be a good spot to go.
Let me just work out how I'm going to sell that to Emma.
Yeah, I'm off out for a train. Oh, what? Just round the block? Yeah. Oh no, my Ryanair flight leaves in a couple of hours. Yeah. Going back to football and your love of Manchester United, can you remember the first time you walked up the steps at Old Trafford and the feeling you got when you first experienced that atmosphere? I know when I came to, when we were working together at the Giorgio Armani Tennis Classic last week, whenever I go into a working kitchen to that size and to that intensity, it's such a thrill to see it. And it's the same for sports fans when they go to their first football match or their first cricket match or what have you. Can you remember those early memories of falling in love with traveling and going to see your football team play?
Yeah, and it was the most special one for me the first time for many, many reasons. First and foremost, because I took my dad and I got us tickets to go see Blackpool when Blackpool were in the Premiership for that one season.
Yeah.
And my dad was born in Polton-le-Fald. He watched Blackpool and he also, loved Man United, obviously where the Man United connection comes from. So to go and see both teams playing against each other. And first of all, as you say, go into a ground like that, the Theatre of Dreams and the history, and Sir Alex was still in charge and Rooney was still playing. And there was, great players. Ronaldo was still at the club, but he was just about to make the move to Real Madrid. And he didn't play that game, but obviously, Scholesy, Giggs. And yeah, you're sort of having, you're having a pint, you're having a burger, a pie, whatever it was. I can't remember what we ate, and you've got all the screens, and then you're sort of like looking like where you're going to go, and then you just went up the steps. And I know, again, you pulling my leg, but actually the first ever football match I ever went to was at the Dell, the old Dell.
Oh, okay, yeah, amazing, yeah.
So I'd been to a football ground before, but to walk out like that into Old Trafford was just absolutely incredible. And we watched the game, and unfortunately it was bittersweet because Blackpool were relegated that match and Man United won the Premiership that match.
Yeah. Okay.
You got to see the whole kind of back then, the Barclays celebration and everything like that. So it's a really amazing day out, and to be able to do it with my dad, and because my dad is, was from the sort of the George Best era and stuff. So, after, we were walking around and we're going to like the pubs and you see all the statues, Dennis Law, all of that history. And to be able to show him that and do that with him, for me, made it wasn't just about going to Old Trafford. It was everything. And again, to do it with my dad was just amazing.
So you got your passion for football essentially from your dad, and it was your parents as well, wasn't it, that essentially got you into catering and giving you a love of food and hospitality and looking after people and giving people a good time?
Absolutely, yeah. I was literally born into hospitality. My mum and dad had a little guest house in Southampton, and they, they developed it to a great level. It went from 5 bedrooms to 10 bedrooms. We lived just out the back in sort of like this little area, and I absolutely loved it. I think sometimes, if my dad sort of took me to school, he sometimes felt that parents would, almost sort of look down their nose a little bit or ask questions, is it healthy to sort of, be bringing a child up in a work environment like that? But I have nothing but the fondest memories, because where my parents were cooking breakfast for the guests 7 days a week, because Monday to Friday, sort of in that Southampton area, it was a lot of contractors. But because of the sort of the Tudor history and all of that, we also got tourists at the weekend. So actually, when your mates call for you to go to school, because my dad was literally cooking bacon and egg every day, he'd sort of pack us off to school, like with either a bacon sandwich, or if there was a bit more time, if I got back from a paper round, we'd sit down, have something to eat, go to school. But then when I got home from school after my paper rounds, I'd then sit down round the table and have like a proper family meal. Never once were we ever sort of sat in front of the telly with a tray on our lap or anything like that. We sat at the table as a family, and that I think that a lot of that was because it was just naturally happening with it being a guest house. So yeah, it was a brilliant environment. But as you say, I grew up in hospitality, and I think just subconsciously I was just surrounded with the home was the business. So when I answered the phone and I knew it might be my mate Vince, but I couldn't go, right, Vince, what time are we going out? I'd be like, hello, Bitten Park Guest House, Paul speaking. How can I help? And then I got quite competitive with my sister on who could take the most room bookings and stuff like that. So yeah, it was brilliant, and I think it was just I was just naturally sort of, like you say, born into hospitality.
It set you up nicely, that upbringing, didn't it? Because soon you were off to London and working under the likes, as I mentioned at the start, under the likes of Gary Rhodes, Gordon Ramsay, who wrote the foreword for your book, and also Marcus Wareing, who I noticed, by the way, was in the Wimbledon Royal Box on Friday night. So I was wondering where your invite. Maybe it's coming next year.
Yeah,
it surely can't be far away. But yeah, what an experience to be in London. Through your early years, the early part of your career, to be thrust into that world.
Yeah, I mean, it started with Gary Rhodes, and he was just phenomenal, and I could talk about all of them individually for hours. And Gary gave me an amazing opportunity. He helped me get into London. He put me up rent free above the hotel for the first 3 months, so I could earn enough money to get basically a bed sit. But even then, it was kind of 6 weeks up front, a month's deposit, all of that. So Gary was just absolutely brilliant at helping me get that first sort of step on the ladder and into London. I worked for Gary for 2 years. In that time, the restaurant won a Michelin Star. So that was like my first sort of taste and introduction of like what Michelin meant into the world I was, basically immersing myself into, this amazing culinary world. From there, I went to Gordon Ramsay, and you know what? The best way I can describe it, if you looked at it in like military terms, the standard at Gary Rhodes was phenomenal, and it was like it was absolutely brilliant. And so if you almost like, that was like the Marines, and then go into a restaurant Gordon Ramsay, and at this point it's 2 Michelin stars, and it was like special selection, and it was like nothing I'd ever seen, Tom.
Really,
it was mind blowing. It was the adrenaline, it was tense, but in a great way. It was pressure, and pressure's good, and especially pressure like that. And you were just like I say, working on this adrenaline in this absolute, amazing place, and seeing somebody, Gordon, on a mission. On an absolute, on a mission. And at this point as well, Tom, Gordon's not, like he is now, and known like he is now. You knew who Gordon Ramsay was if you were in, hospitality, catering. And, so he was there every day, and you were working, alongside him. He had an amazing head chef called Mark Askew. And yeah, don't get me wrong, it was absolutely, tough and, hardcore. But there was never any malice or bullying or anything like that. It was just a discipline, a culture that, again, going back to sport, that he wanted to be the best, and you could genuinely feel as well that everybody in that team, he wanted them to be the best, and those that were willing to commit, those that were willing to sort of say, yeah, do you know what? Everything out the window here. I'm going on this journey. And if you were willing to sort of let go and just literally lean into it and give yourself to it, yeah, you would get on, and it was surreal in some ways. It was just like, what is that? I've never seen a native lobster. I've never seen, you know, um, you know, beautiful sea bass that's wild and 2 to 3 kilo size, and just beautifully prepped, and scallops from the Orkney Islands. I'd never seen those. It was, that hand dived, not dredged, not netted. So yeah, it was phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal.
On that point, do you travel a lot to find the best produce you can possibly find? Do you take yourself off for a few weeks and leave the businesses to look after themselves, and you go off and discover what you can find?
Yeah, I mean, I've done trips like that, but what I'm very blessed and fortunate to have is this incredible larder in Cornwall that's on the doorstep. And I always make it very, very clear as well that we never ever sort of go on that sort of bandwagon, of like local, local, local and stuff like that. There's got to be a balance with everything. And, you know, Tom, if you and Emma are coming to dine with us, it's my responsibility and the team's responsibility to give you the best, not ticking a box ticking exercise. And by that, I mean, I don't feel the need that I need to go and get beef from Japan, because I feel that there's incredible beef in the British Isles. And I'm very fortunate. I've got incredible beef in Cornwall. But if I didn't have incredible beef, in Cornwall, I felt that I could get better beef in Scotland or Wales or wherever, then I would make it my job to go and source that. And that's how we do all of our sourcing. Is that the best we can get? And the fact that we can now pretty much say that you know as a nation, as the British Isles, including Ireland and Scotland and Wales and everything, the produce is just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And in some cases, if you like take cheese for instance, there's more. We have more sort of varieties of cheese in France, and quite frankly as well, the cheese makers in this country are absolutely smashing it. They're doing a brilliant job. But then if I look at, like what we have, in terms of in Cornwall, from the protein side of things, the seafood, we have the most incredible shellfish. We have beautiful whitefish, oily fish. We have incredible meat, and the most amazing sort of, when game season starts, we have game. So I don't have to look very, very far because it is prime produce. There's certain things like scallops. We don't tend to have a lot of scallops in Cornwall. Certainly ones that are like hand dive. So we'll buy a lot of our scallops from the Orkney Islands and, all around the archipelagos, and, making sure that we only work with hand dive scallops. But, that's still incredible. In terms of food miles, that's still brilliant. I think we're not flying a lot of stuff in overseas.
Yeah, absolutely. You're based in Padstow, of course, in Cornwall.
Yeah.
And as you say, that's, not to bang on about keeping it local, but it works for you, and the perfect ingredients are close to you, and very tasty ingredients as well. Let's talk about Padstow, because that is where you have now set up. It's where you've been for a number of years. You've got the Michelin Star #6 there as well, plus other businesses too. Do you want to run us through what you run and own in Padstow? Because then I want to talk about actually what a great sports travel destination it is, with coastal walking and hikes and water sports and much more as well.
Yep. So I moved to Padstow in 2005. In 2006, I was head chef of a restaurant called Number Six. In 2009, me and my wife Emma, we bought the business, we took it over, and we renamed it Paul Ainsworth at Number Six. In 2012, we took on Reggiano's, which is now called Cafe Reggiano's, because we, after a few years, bought the freehold, bought the business. In 2015, Emma did a project called Padstow Townhouse, which is our rooms. So that's like 6, beautiful, really large boutique suites, right in the old town of Padstow as well. So a lovely kind of quiet part of Padstow, which we then sort of chauffeur people down to our restaurant. But
Oh,
the walk is like 2 minutes. The next project after that was the Mariners, which is our pub in Rock. And again, that was our first sort of, I suppose, sort of venturing outside Padstow, but not too far, and across the estuary to Rock, which is again a beautiful, beautiful destination. Same year, we launched a cocktail bar adjacent to number 6 called Cece's Bar, which is named after my eldest daughter. So again, you can experience coming into number 6, but you don't have to be dining. You can just come and have, some
Amazing.
really, we really, really sort of take our drinks just as serious as we do our food. And, whether it's a gin and tonic to a lovely glass of champagne or a great cocktail, we really sort of take drinks seriously now. And we do a little food offering in there as well. So kind of like sort of a nice pinch-off style, a bit like what we were doing at the Hurlingham Club, Tom, at the beginning for all the guests to kind of like pass around. And then more recently, this year in January 2025, we acquired and became the new custodians of the St Enna Dock Hotel, which again is in Rock. So yeah, that's a quick summary of the Ainsworth collection.
I'm just going to get my head around this quickly, because if I want to come down to Padstow for some hiking, you've essentially sewn it all up. So in the morning, I can go to the cafe. Is it open in the morning?
It is for breakfast.
Right, so
yeah,
perfect. Yeah, Cafe Reggiano for breakfast. I'll then go out for a little coastal walk.
Yeah,
come back, lunch option in the pub in the Mariners. That would work, wouldn't it?
It would.
And then I'll go out for an afternoon walk along another part of the coast. Come back. And of course, the evening entertainment is sorted with cocktails and then dinner at number 6. And then I've got a night's room for the evening. So
either side, you can either stay with us in Padstow or stay with us in Rock. And depending on what time of the week you come down, I really do recommend going for Sunday roast at the Mariners. We do a good Sunday roast.
At the end of my week's hiking, I'll treat myself to a Sunday roast. Perfect. Talking about sports travel itineraries, that has to be right. I'm going to put that on my list.
I think the best way to describe what you're saying as well is actually to our team. And I was having a conversation with a young chef last week who's looking to make the move from London to Cornwall. He came and did a week with us, which is what I always recommend. Make sure it's right for you. And I always say it to this: if outdoor sort of lifestyle life isn't your bag, then probably come into Cornwall, as in I'm talking now to kind of come and work with us and live there. It might not be for you. If sort of getting up on your days off and sort of jumping on the Xbox and playing Gran Turismo is your vibe, then probably coming to us is not the thing. But if sort of running, walking, wakeboarding, we've got camel ski right in the heart of where we are, which offer all the water sports, all, through pretty much from Easter right the way through to sort of autumn. So the more simple things of just being on the beach and feeling grounded and great energy and also as well, we're surrounded by, great five-a-side football pitches, brilliant, sort of leisure centres. We've got gyms, all sorts, but the lifestyle of Cornwall from a sports point of view is amazing. And again, if cycling is your thing, I tell you what, let me tell you from experience, Cornwall will get you ready for an event if you're into your cycling, because honestly, Tom, for whatever direction you go, wherever you are in Cornwall, you will not go more than 500 yards before you're on a climb.
Yeah, it's going to be a good workout. All the more reason to go to the Mariners for lunch.
Exactly. And let us be your refuel.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's perfect. I was just looking at the hikes you can do around Padstow, but the Padstow to, how many of these have you? Padstow to Stepper Point walk sounds like it's a nice,
Absolutely. And Stepper Point is where, so you've got a lot of lobster pots around there. So if you get it at the right time, if you're out there nice and early, you see a lot of the guys going out there and collecting the lobster pots, and that's a stunning walk.
The Padstow to Harlem Bay route as well. Yeah. Sounds interesting.
Even longer. Harlem Beach, beautiful. And then you're not too far away then from sort of Constantine, Mother Ivy's. You can even go to the lifeboat station, which again is spectacular, absolutely beautiful around there. Mother Ivy's is probably one of my favourite beaches. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, a stunning place for food and also for adventure, really, isn't
Yeah.
it, down there?
Yeah, it really is. And to be fair, so many of our customers, I know we're joking, but they do, you sort of speak to them and they're like, I've just finished, or we've just finished this, and it's almost like a bit of like that's the reward. So we've just walked 20 miles, and the reward is this. And I really want to point out as well, there is so many awesome people in Cornwall right now as well on these routes doing great coffee. One just recently went on a brilliant bike ride recently, didn't even know about it. And there was a guy there with a proper old school Mark One Land Rover, converted the back of
Brilliant.
it,
Love it.
short wheelbase, converted the
Yeah.
back of it, and was knocking out beautiful, proper artisan coffee. And it was just great. And there's so much of that on all of these routes as well. You definitely will not, fall short of finding refreshments on these long walks.
Yeah,
runs,
and cycles.
And cycles, yeah.
Absolutely. There's a couple of routes I do. There's a walking route I do from Edinburgh out to the west to Queensferry, which is where the Forth bridges are, the famous Forth Bridge, the red, the railway bridge, and underneath there, Queensferry, the little town of Queensferry, some wonderful places to eat and have a drink and coffee outlets, and then a cycle out to North Berwick along the East Lothian coast, and it's just golf course after golf course after golf course. But along that route, there's some wonderful places to stop and have a coffee, and it's such a wonderful lifestyle.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's great. Even to the point of like having a piece of, like, if you do have a piece of cake, I don't know, you feel because you're walking, you're burning good calories like walking, and I think it's great. Well, that's my justification anyway.
yeah. As long as I do my 5-mile walk in the morning, I can eat whatever I like.
Yes,
to an extent. Yeah,
yes,
to an extent. So I mean, this all brings us on nicely to your love of Ironmans, Paul. Is this a new love of yours, or is it something you've done for many years? And yeah, I mean, 3 components, putting it all together, 3 components as we're talking about, cycling. I think we both love. I certainly, the hiking element, although obviously you don't hike in an Ironman, you run. And the swimming is my least favoured out of the 3. Yeah. But how did the journey of doing Ironmans begin for you?
Yeah, probably not how you'd expect. And it actually came from sort of how my life sort of changed dramatically from going from being head chef of a restaurant to owning a restaurant and all of the other pressures and things that come with that, Tom.
Yeah.
So no longer was it just about the food and the service and everything else in the atmosphere of the restaurant. I've got to make this work, and I've got to make this a viable business. And then when we started to grow and you take on more people and again, pressure that I embrace and take on and want to be my very best at. And in 2018, I'm basically a big fan of, Men's Health magazine. I actually subscribe to it, not the online one, the actual magazine itself, so it's something to sort of physically read. And in 2018, Gordon was front cover, and I was obviously especially interested in it, and I wanted to sort of read the whole interview. And when you sort of read something and it just really sinks in and resonates with you. And up until this point, I didn't have a clue what Ironman was. I didn't know anything about Ironman, triathlon, anything. And Gordon sort of spoke about it in real sort of detail, but there was this sort of 2 sentences that he sort of had put in there, that he had done marathons, but he needed something else to kind of almost distract him from this. He felt that he was at a point where it was almost like the businesses were running him and he wasn't running the businesses. And I think at that stage in 2018, I felt like that. And sometimes I feel like that now, but I think at that point it really hit me because I felt that whilst we were growing and it was good, I don't know, I didn't know which fire to put out first. I felt quite
Yeah.
overwhelmed. I had quite a lot going on in my life then as well. I think, I spoke about my dad briefly at the beginning. I sort of lost my dad around that sort of time, and a
Yeah.
lot going on in my life. It's sort of, like with all of these things, you don't go and read that and then go, right, okay, brilliant, that's the answer. I'm going to go enter Ironman and stuff. It takes time, and you have to be ready to sort of make the change or bring that into your life. So in 2022, I entered Weymouth 70.3. So 70.3 is basically half the distance of a full Ironman, Tom.
Yeah. Okay.
Clueless, entered it, sort of almost, idiotic when I look back at it now, in, no real plan. Thought I could train myself, by sort of watching sort of YouTube and stuff. Anyway, that fell on its ass. They then sort of put it into 2023, and Weymouth it didn't happen. And my problem was as well, again, like the businesses, work was always at the forefront. Work, work, work. So when it was time to go and do the training, and if I was deep in work, yeah, forget it. Work comes first. Work comes first. And I think that's fine, and I have no regrets, because I I had to do that, because we didn't have the infrastructure that we have now. Someone said to me, I bet you wish you'd done this a lot earlier, didn't you? And it's like, well, yeah, you could say that. Yeah, of course I wish I'd got fitter, like earlier on in, my life. But the reality was, Tom, I didn't know how to work that out. I didn't know how to do both. And, when you're trying to build something, everything went into that, and still does. But now, we have a COO, we have a group culinary director, people you met at the Hurlingham Club, Tom.
Yeah.
And we have amazing people and amazing head chefs and everywhere, which does make it sort of, for me, makes me able to go and kind of fit in a training session or get that done early in the morning, or sometimes late at night. So got to 2024, and I thought to myself, I've got to change. I'd had a bit of a health checkup. It was pretty sound, but the doctor did say to me that you do need to change your lifestyle, because you are on the higher end of type 2 diabetes. And if you don't change, you're gonna head in that direction. So you've got all of these things. And I just then sort of said to myself, Paul, you're never going to be less busy. There's never going to be a right time. You've just got to do it, get on with it, and make it happen. And that's what I did. And I met a guy that I'd sort of been, sort of studying, going on his website, looking at his Instagram. He's based in Cornwall, a chap called Chris Dominy. I met with him and said, look, this is what I want to do. He was brilliant in that, very straight talking, and was like, okay, great. You tell me you want to do this, and that's what you want to do. But I get lots of people that tell me that they want to do it, but do you want to do it? And you know what, Tom? Excuse my French, but fucking hell, that was like red rag to a bull. Because I was, and I didn't know him as well as I know him now at this point, and I was like, "Who are you?" I've like, what you think, you don't sort of get this and without having drive and commitment and being ambitious and doing, all this. You don't think I can commit to this like that? But it was exactly what I needed. Whether he did that on purpose, whether that was reverse psychology, I don't know. But I literally, like, he had me on the hook. I was on, and I think that was the driving force, because it was like, it was the way he said it as well. It was slightly sort of, way you say you want to do it. Everybody says they want to do it, and stuff.
He's the greatest salesman on the planet.
He is, and certainly to me. So I was like, right, I tell you, and it was like gritted teeth. So anyway, I sort of started, and we started with the swimming, and yeah, Tom, honestly, my swimming experience was on holiday.
yeah, same as me.
No swimming experience. No sort of, when I was a kid, I was in a swimming club or any of that.
Yeah, swim to the swim up bar.
Yes, exactly. That was my swimming. Cycling, I had started doing a bit of cycling previous, and done, so I'd had a bit of cycling experience, and I'd done the London Marathon in 2019, and I do actually, I know some sort of people find that strange, but I do enjoy running.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I sort of got into it, and and I just sort of, like many a kind of, 5 a.m. sort of, start and getting it in, because it goes back to that point of Gordon's. You are trying to fit in 3 disciplines, and to do that over the course of a week, with work, with family, with everything else. We just had our second child, little Audrey. It was a massive commitment, and then I put extra. I wanted to put extra pressure on myself as well. That I wanted to. Some really good friends of ours, their daughter had got leukemia, which now, thank goodness, little Coco has rang the bell. She's in remission, which is fantastic. But at that time, her mum Faith was sort of really documenting the story of parents living with a child that's got leukemia, and I read every single sort of story every time, and just and having children, Tom, and I thought, what, this is no mean feat, this doing doing an Ironman, or a half Ironman 70.3. Like, let's get some some money raised. But I wanted to make sure that I was physically fit enough to do it, because Ironman themselves, will say to you, there's no, when you're on the start line and you're in your wetsuit and they start playing Thunderstruck, that's the Ironman theme tune by AC/DC. You're not looking around at anyone, with a washing machine strapped to their back or dressed as Mr.
Yeah.
Blobby or anything like that.
Yeah.
Everybody is there. Like, and don't get me wrong, not everyone there is kind of a lean, mean fighting machine, but everybody there is at a certain level of fitness and train for. And Ironman themselves are saying, if you have not trained, don't enter. We'd rather defer you to another race. You've got to have some form of training. And you get to that start line, and by now everybody sort of knows you're doing it. And we managed to raise £67,000 for that particular ward. All of that money went to that ward at the Trillium Hospital in Cornwall for children's cancer. And it changed my life, and it's changed my life now as I'm speaking to you. It's just given me a whole new outlook, and it's my form of meditation. It's my form of therapy. It's where I find something. It's where, when I'm running in particular on that camel trail, I don't like running with partners or friends or anything like that. The cycling's a good crack, when you're cycling, and the cafe ride culture is brilliant. But yeah, certainly on those long runs, I just I sort of focus out of the actual running itself and just get into it, and then my mind goes to a different place, and I think deeply about business, my personal life, family, Emma, the girls, everything. And yeah, it's taken me 46 years to get there, but it has completely changed my life. And I just couldn't imagine my life without it. And particularly for this podcast, Tom, the beauty and the great thing I love about Ironman, and I see myself now for the foreseeable future exploring the world through this sport, because Ironman locations they're out of this world.
Yeah.
Out of this world, where they put on these incredible spectacles, and the organization and Ironman, the brand, and everything about it. It is just incredible. And it's amazing. And it's just something for me that I found in some ways as well, probably, Tom, in a lot of ways, like, saved my life, probably in a lot of ways, in I think if I'd not, sort of, like I told you, sort of having that sort of health check, and and I think if you just keep on going and don't sort of say, right, okay, and you could, your 20s, your 30s, but I think sort of for me, getting to my 40s, and the type of job I'm doing as well, which sometimes it does make it extremely hard to kind of, because you are surrounded by food, and I'm human, and I'm walking into our businesses and there's fresh bread coming out the oven, and there's all this beautiful things that you're surrounded by, and also as well, it is my job, and I'll never ever not do that. You have to taste. I've got to taste, because otherwise I'm not doing justice to my craft. You've got to taste, and you've got to make sure that what you're doing, and you're making sure that the teams are, are delivering beautiful food. So it is very, very difficult, at times, but
yeah, it is with your food, Paul. It's hard not to taste your food. You get a bit carried away.
Yeah.
I'm so pleased you said that about traveling the world with Ironman, because it's my belief that our planet is our playground. Hence this podcast. It's our planet is where we should have fun, where we come together through sport and adventure and the travel aspect as well. I love exploring new destinations through their sporting events and their adventures. And you're right, Ironman travels the world, and for you to be competing in those, what a way to see the world. What a way to meet new people. What a way just to feel alive, right? Away from the day in, day out, a job you love, but a job that is taxing and tiring and stressful. What a way to escape.
Yeah, it is all of that. It is the people. You're absolutely right. It's the people you meet. So last year, I know this is going to sound strange, and I was telling my coach this the other day. So it all started, like I say, with reading that really in-depth interview that with Gordon and Men's Health magazine, and then I started to watch people. There's so much. If you are thinking about this, or if you've listened to this and feel a bit motivated by it, there are so many people on YouTube who have made brilliant content, who document their journey from starting from literally zero and getting themselves to the start line of a 70.3, or if it's not an Ironman, and there's some brilliant races in the UK, like Blenheim Palace, and I had a friend of mine that did a great one the other day. So you can do sprint distance, Olympic distance, then you've got 70.3, then you've got full distance. And anyway, I was watching all these Ironmans, Tom, and you'd watch them on sort of YouTube, and like the weather, I know it's going to sound really, really stupid, but just sort of being in sort of like, like a sports top and shorts, white socks and trainers, and like the sun, and cap on backwards, glasses, but I wanted to, when I was watching these, I was out of shape. I was overweight. I was not in good shape, and part of it was, I want to get there. Like I want to stand in front of every Ironman race, they build this massive red M with the dot on the top. That's the Ironman logo. And I was like, I can only stand in front of that when I've earned it, when I'm in some form of, decent shape. And I did, and I got there. And I remember being stood in front of it, Tom, and I was with Emma and Cece and Audrey, and with my kids, and I'm feeling good, and the sun was shining, and I just was thinking to myself, I've watched this on YouTube for the last kind of 2 or 3 years, and I'm here and I'm living it, and I feel like I've got here by working hard, and I've earned it, and I'm about to now go and compete in this race, and like I love it. And I just love the lifestyle of it, and I love the adventure of it. And like Emma, Emma still does like the kind of, the sort of the sunny holiday where you kind of chill around the pool.
Yeah.
And I think she's a bit concerned at the moment that I seem to sort of just want to go on like adventure holidays.
Yeah. I'm in a similar situation. My Emma does love to, chill out on holiday. She likes an adventure too, but I'm the one going, well, what hikes are near the hotel? What is there a hike? Is there a hike within walking distance of the hotel?
Yeah.
And maybe we could hike to the hike and then do the hike.
Yeah. But it's the feeling, like you just said as well, the people you meet. And then sort of first day we went to this cafe, and what I loved as well, Tom, is the town are just so proud, honoured and privileged to be hosting an Ironman. And this first cafe we went into, the guy had competed in that race, the owner of the cafe, in 2015. And I was, oh, any points? And the course is pretty much the same. They haven't changed any parts of the course or anything like that on the bike or the run or anything like that. And he was chatting to me about it. He was telling me about it. It was brilliant. And then he just simply produced, like nice Ironman 70.3 like napkins for his cafe. And then there was flags outside saying, anyone competing in Ironman, come in this cafe and, you get 10% off your coffee. And it was just everywhere, just embraced it. It was just brilliant.
Paul, it's been such a brilliant journey so far on this episode of the Planet Playground podcast. We started in Southampton, of course, and trips to the Dell, and then, of course, trips to Old Trafford to watch Manchester United play, but then also the adventures around Padstow, where you have your many businesses and the hiking you can do, the water sports you can do there as well. Then in Cornwall, you transitioned into a love of Ironmans, although you still need to work on those transitions within the actual Ironmans, don't you? But yeah, Cornwall has been the inspiration for you beginning to love and go on that journey of Ironmans, which is beginning to take you all over the world. So I have to ask at this point of the podcast, Paul, what is your Planet Playground?
Tom, my Planet Playground is Zell am See, Kaprun, Austria. It is, as I've said, one of the most, if not beautiful places I've ever visited. But it really is a playground. And even if you're not going there and you're competing in, something like an Ironman, whether you're skiing there in the winter, whether you're there in the summer, and you just see all the children playing on the lake, and they offer those kind of really big kind of bouncy castles within the lake and stuff, and diving platforms and everything like that. It is, just the most spectacular, beautiful place I've ever seen. And just, I think, absolutely, for me, wraps up and signifies everything that, your podcast is about as a Planet Playground.
And of course, you know it well because you have competed in an Ironman in that part of the world and have more to come as well. So tell us the story of what the trip was like.
So I sort of said to like I said, took on this great coach to help me learn these 3 disciplines, Chris. And then we just sort of discussed, and Chris sort of said to me, look, the UK ones are fantastic. He said, but when you're going to put all this work in, he was like, I have sort of traveled the world. And he said, and, me and my family have been to places that ordinarily we probably wouldn't have chosen to go to, but because of the sport, it's taken us there. He said, so look, I've got no problem. If you want to do Weymouth, do Weymouth. He said, but, have a look and see what else is there. Actually, Weymouth was in mid-September, which Cece would have been back at school. So it would have been sort of, tying it in, on the weekend, finishing school, all of that, and traveling up there on the Friday after school. So I just found this one in a place called Zell am See, Kaprun, which is in Austria. And you looked at it and I was like, oh, this looks beautiful. And the course looked amazing. And it just looked absolutely amazing. And it was the end of August, so it fitted in with the summer holidays. And also our friends, my daughter Cece, her best friend Bonnie, they're obviously on school holidays, and she also gets on really well with Bonnie's brother Seth. So, and Audrey had just been born. So we turned it into like this sort of friends, family holiday for the week. And then I said to my coach, I was like, look, I'd love you to be there. And, I'd like to, like pay for your flights and for you to sort of come out there, because I just would love the support. And he was like, absolutely. And then he said, look, do you know what? I'll race this with you.
Wow.
So he said, I'll enter this as well. So that was incredible to have him racing as well. Just, I don't know, it was like, even though we didn't race together, because, he went on and did like 4 hours 50. But just knowing he was there was amazing. And so then we arrived on the Tuesday, Tom, and the race wasn't till the Sunday, but we then for me, it was great because it allowed me to sort of climatize and just sort of get settled in. And we kind of, each day we go out and do a swim, a run, a bike ride. We biked some of the course. So the hardest bit of the course, you pretty much hit. It's 1,000 meters of elevation on the course, and you pretty much hit that in one foul swoop. So you basically go up a mountain, you're climbing up the mountain. So Chris was like, as much as I want you to understand the climb, but also I'm more concerned about the descent and just being careful and, and sort of, coming down that mountain safely. Yeah, it was just the most amazing week, but nothing could have prepared me for just how beautiful Austria and this part of Austria, Zell am See, was. I mean, the best way I can describe it to you, Tom, it felt like you were looking at, say you were looking over there and you're like, I don't know, is that like photoshopped in? Is that like CGI? Because that is just, it was just breathtakingly beautiful. And Zell am See is also great for them because they've got this amazing sort of trade and tourism in the summer. Obviously, they have the Ironman there and all of that, but it's actually a really, really brilliant ski resort. So you kind of you can see where all the runs are. You're seeing a ski resort in the summertime. Obviously, all the cable cars are in use. So yeah, it was just breathtaking. And yeah, as we've said, just traveling with sport and, I mean, like I say, that bike ride. I mean, also as well, there is a part of it where you're on I'm on the bars and I'm just like trying to go hell for leather. So you're not sort of like going, oh, nice. But,
I might just stop here, take a photo.
Yeah,
quick. Yeah. So was that your first Ironman then? That one?
Yeah. So I had entered a triathlon in London, which I'm doing in 4 weeks' time. Last year called the T100. So T100, like Ironman, it's another brand, another like sort of brand of triathlon. So they do a sprint, an Olympic, and then a 100K. So last year I'd entered the sprint, but I got quite poorly. And it's about 3-4 weeks before the race. So I got like head cold, that sort of thing. So coach had said, listen, I just think let's focus on Austria. And, let's just pull out of this one and focus on Austria. So anyway, T100 kindly deferred it into this year. So this year I'm going to do the Olympic, which is 1,500 meter swim. So you go off of by Excel.
Yeah.
So into, I think, by India Docks there.
Yeah.
1,500 meter swim, 40K bike ride, and then finish with a 10K run. So I'm aiming for, I'd like to sort of get sort of sub 3 hours would be great.
Yeah. Yeah. And a great city to do it in as well.
And the T100 is also like Ironman. They're amazing with with what they do and the sort of the spectacle they put on. So I've got that on August the 9th, that weekend, and then Austria again on August the 31st. I wanted to go back because we just had probably one of the most incredible experiences of my life, but I was aiming for sub 6, and that was never the goal when I originally did it last year, but I sort of just the training become better and better and better, and the original goal was just to compete and do it, and then you sort of think, oh, actually, I'm gonna try and race this. I'm gonna try and in me against me, but I'm gonna try and race this, not just get round. So I thought, okay, about 3-4 weeks out, I was like, I think I could do this sub 6, and I did it in 6 hours 4 minutes. I lost time.
Impressive.
I pissed about in transition. My coach at the end of it was like, "You're 8 minutes in transition too. What are you doing? Baking a cake?" It's like literally hanging out my arse, Tom. I'm like, no. It didn't. Coach, it didn't feel like I was pissing around in transition. It literally felt like I was just like my legs were absolutely on fire. And now I've got to go run a half marathon. I was just trying to have a wee, get my socks on, get my trainers on, get my nutrition and get out there. And do you know what? Yes, that took 8 minutes.
All in all, it was an 8-minute process.
Yes.
So leave me to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've got to be quicker in those transitions. Hopefully I'll be a bit quicker across all 3 disciplines.
Well, if you are quicker in those transitions, you'll be sub 6. So
yes, absolutely.
Get your act together.
Absolutely. I know.
And talking of these incredible sporting adventures doing Ironmans, where else is on the list around the world? Which events have you seen which you would love to go and do around the world?
So yeah, the whole part of this journey is going to be all building towards, and I think it's always been part of what I thought was maybe a 3-year plan, but I think is going to be like a 4-year plan. In 2027, I want to go full distance. So I want to go across the finish line. And when you go across the finish line of Ironman, Tom, they've got this incredible. He pretty much does most races. This South African guy, and he's just got the most incredible voice. And he starts at the beginning. He does the race debriefings and all of that. He was at ZLMC last year where I did mine. But when you cross Ironman finish line, they say those words, Paul Ainsworth, you are now an Ironman, like
Brilliant.
that. And you ring the bell as well when you're if it's your first one, you ring the bell. And I think what this has been a part of is just gradually getting hopefully fitter and fitter and used to it. And then the plan was to do it next year in 2026, but with, St. Enodoc Hotel and our plans for that. And, whenever we do whenever we're going to do a new business and launch a new business, I want to put my absolute heart and soul into it. And I've got to be realistic, and this is a huge project, St. Enodoc Hotel, Tom, and I've got to be absolutely dedicated to it and to try and then fit in, because you'll see stuff on YouTube, but like my coach said, you're looking at, if you're going to be, do this properly, you're looking at sort of 15 to maybe 20 hours of training a week, certainly when you get to the kind of the later stages of the training block. So that for me is just impossible. And the job I do and really launching the hotel next year. So yeah, there's a few I've seen. Nice is iconic. In Ironman, it's where they host the World Championship.
The first guest on the Planet Playground podcast, Monica Puig, who won the tennis at the 2016 Olympics in Rio.
Yeah,
she has competed in that in Nice, and she says it's such a wonderful event.
Yeah, and it's beautiful, and there's a part of me as well. It's quite a brutal course as well. It's plenty. It's where a lot of the Tour de France riders live. I'm absolutely think he's another superhuman being, but I'm a massive Tadej Pogacar fan. Going back to right at the beginning of this, I find someone like him almost like a Valentino Rossi. I think he's like everything to the sport. He's not only, you get they're so elite and they're so brilliant, but they may not have the personality to sort of match the kind of the brilliance. But someone like Tadej Pogacar, I think he not only is he brilliant, but he's just got this wonderful personality as well. You just want to root for him. He's just fantastic. So yeah, Nice is a good one, and obviously the bike course for Ironman Nice is pretty grueling and stuff. I really love the look of the one in Sweden, Kalmar. You part of the cycle course, you go across the bridge that connects Denmark and Sweden.
Brilliant.
Again, absolutely stunning. So again, it's just looking at, I suppose, one where I would really choose it based on the destination, because at the end of the day, they're all hard.
Yeah. You want one that's nice to look at when you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. They're all hard. I remember watching this thing, and it's like people do type in, what's the easiest Ironman? There's no such thing.
Yeah, it's the one you make up and you do around. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, that's my goal. That's my
brilliant.
That's my what I would like to sort of take on, and I would love one day. I think there's lots of stats, but it is literally like 0.0001% of people on the planet will do that. And even though I've got some experience now, it still terrifies me, but excites me in that you're going to swim 2.4 miles. You're going to get out of the water, you're going to jump on a bike, and you're then going to cycle 112 miles. And as I'm speaking to you, Tom, I still yet to break 100 miles on a bike. So I've not done that yet, even with all the experience that, that I've had recently. And then you're going to jump off of that bike, stick your trainers on, and go run a marathon. If I can say that I've done that one day in my life, then for me, that is something that, you just, no one can take that away from you.
Yeah, we might have to stick a Planet Playground sticker on you and just call you an ambassador, if you don't
100.
mind.
Listen, you know what? You have to have a bike box, and I've got some, and I'm very particular about the stickers that I put on my bike box. I would love a Planet Playground sticker on my bike box.
There we go. We've both got targets now. 2027. I'll make sure this podcast has grown enough I can afford some sort of marketing budget for a sticker.
Yeah. Yes.
And as part of that marketing budget, we'll the team, me, will come across and greet you at the finish line. What a day!
Amazing, mate. It's going to happen.
Can't wait for that. Paul, thank you so much for a wonderful conversation. How delightful to hear about your personal journey and your love of food. And of course, your love of traveling the world through sport and adventure, especially, cooking at such great sports events, experiencing sporting events such as the Yankees, and then, of course, the Ironmans as well, which I give you enormous credit for and will be inspiration to many people listening, including myself, because, it's one of those things that, be great, wouldn't it, just to get into?
Yeah.
Before we go, let's just quickly talk about how lovely this book is. For the love of food, your book, here it is. And I tell you what, perfect ingredients in there and perfect meals post an Ironman to refuel, isn't there?
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. I tell you what, a Cafe Reggiano burger after an Ironman's what you want.
Exactly. So yeah, that is, if you haven't got it already, go and get that book. For the love of food, Paul Ainsworth. Gordon Ramsay does the forward in it as well, and the photos and the recipes look absolutely superb. Paul, thank you so much for coming on to the Planet Playground podcast today.
Tom, it's been an absolute pleasure. Really, really enjoyed it.
Thanks for watching this Planet Playground podcast as we discover our world through its best sports events and adventures. You can watch much more right here.